Well, we are back, and it's a ton up. 100 Sky 3 for 1 episodes. I've certainly aged a lot over the last 3 years, and you haven't aged a day. You good-looking bastard! Congratulations, Paul, on 100. How do you feel?
It doesn't feel like we've done 100, I don't
It
think.
doesn't, does it? I know. It's.
No,
I think it's just shy of 3 years. And yeah, 100. I suppose if you kind of divide it by number of game weeks, because I don't think we missed a game week. Maybe we missed one game week out like
yeah.
in the last 3 seasons. But yeah, I suppose when you add it all up, it makes sense.
But you've hosted them all, right? So you'll be ahead of me. I think I've maybe missed two or three. I know you've had Leon and Ian, and when Dan was doing it weekly as well.
Yeah,
Kind of covered a few weeks.
yeah. I think we've done them all. But yeah, obviously, massive thanks to Dan. Who's been with us for the vast majority of it as well, and Ian and Liam too. Congratulations to you guys. Checking we're live. Can someone please comment in the chat if we are actually live, please? It's very uncharacteristically quiet in the chat, which normally means that we're not live. Looks like we are to me. The weather is pretty awful outside. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But Glenn and Gary are in, and Johnny White as well, and Kian. Maybe we are live. Maybe it just took a little minute to kick off. Anyway, Paul, how was your Sky weekend?
Yeah, it was okay. Better than your tech skills and getting these podcasts live these days. No, I scored 65, felt kind of average, and usually if I came out having been 98th, so sitting in the top 100 the week before, and then dropping down to 214th, I'd be pretty gutted. But I actually feel okay. Never used any transfers. We're going to talk about popular moves past weekend shortly, and you can see that a lot of transfers have been used. We've seen the transfer averages massively down again, so I'm relatively happy with the way things have gone.
Yeah, I had a bit of I say a poor weekend. Obviously, there was some pretty. Obviously, the Haaland news was massive, and looking at the ownership, which I'm sure we'll touch on Haaland a little bit more in a bit. His ownership plummeted down to something like 50% or just over 50% or something when he was really high. So obviously, a lot of changes made there, and then obviously there were some other opportunities. Salah was obviously looked a good captain on paper on Saturday. He got his goal. More importantly, Arsenal, I noticed. So I only had Salah on Sunday, and my rank absolutely tanked when Martinelli and Saka assist and Jesus and everyone else kind of have got in the act. But yeah, do you think there was a big move on transfers over the weekend, and do you think that they were warranted?
I think that people took the gamble on Haaland, right? And if Haaland doesn't start against Fulham, it looks like a good move, especially if you captained one of those players on Sunday that returned really well. So I guess Saka would have been the disappointing one if anyone had moved on to Saka. But if you'd moved on to any of the other popular players on Sunday, and then Haaland wasn't to play on this coming Saturday, then it looks a good move. And I've still got Haaland, and I assume that you have as well. We're just hoping that he starts early on Saturday.
How unlucky were Saka owners with obviously Reece Nelson coming on, and you never know exactly what would have happened, right? But what was it, two goals and an assist?
Yeah, I'm a man of science. Butterfly effect. So when I see those comments on Twitter, look, you've got to feel unlucky as a Saka owner, because there was that an additional 60 minutes of attacking returns potential against the Nottingham Forest side. I don't think it's as easy. And I know that you don't think like this as well, and we're throwing it out possibly to infuriate me, but that whole all the goals came from that side kind of jazz just doesn't work for me. If a throw in goes the wrong way in the first minute of the game, it changes the whole complexion of the game. So I don't follow that logic, but you do have to feel aggrieved because you only got 30 minutes out of 90 minutes, especially when Forest started tiring in the second half and Arsenal can put more pressure on.
Yeah, I think some other things with the clean sheets for City, like Akanji, Diaz owners obviously unlucky. Edison owners obviously had a nice clean sheet as well. I was really disappointed that Dyer was benched again. Potentially a butterfly effect because Dyer wasn't playing. Bournemouth scored a couple of goals, so maybe it would or wouldn't have mattered. But that was really disappointing because he started every game and he's nailed. And he's probably only been rested, obviously, because they got Marseille in midweek now. But that's a bit of a killer when someone's rested. You don't really expect to be, and it gave everyone else who's got players like maybe a Kanji or maybe Gahey or someone like that, a bit of an edge on Trippier as well. So there was quite a lot there. So I went down from, I think it was 148th to 398th. Scamacca is just not looking too great at the moment. I just have to hope that he's brought off. I think it was like the 57th minute this time. He did get booked as well for a kung fu kick almost. So it's got to hope that he starts the final two. I still don't mind him over Mitrovic, but I can't help but thinking he's 7.9 million. If I had another 0.1 million, like even a move to like a Kanji could prove really, really good, or even like a Rashford, 8 million. I'm 0.1 short with both of those moves. I'm probably gonna have to leave him. Just got to hope maybe even one goal in the next two, and I'd be reasonably happy.
Akanji wasn't in training for Man City today, so that could be.
Oh, I missed that.
I missed that. Keep an eye on, or it might have been one of those wasn't spotted in training, but City Extra who posted that's usually quite reliable source.
Okay, cool. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Johnny White, Glenn Murray, Gary to say, Kieran, Niall Murphy. Hi there, Niall. I was up your neck of the woods last week. Had a really good couple of days with Paul and his family. Glenn is in. Metallica, Burt Welsh, Colin, and Sean. I was disappointed, Paul. My own fault, but I was disappointed I didn't have anything deep fried.
You had the offer.
I did, but it was so I had haggis. I had haggis twice actually on both mornings. Tatty scones as well. Tennant did the whole full Scottish experience. We had an opportunity on the Monday evening. We were at a poker night, and there was a break, like a 10-minute break, where we could have kind of dashed out and got stuff, but I hate to leave hands in poker, and we would have probably had to miscut the hands, wouldn't we? And it's bad etiquette as well, so I kind of left it. But next time I'm there, I'm going to feast. I'm going to have only I'm not going to get chips. I'm going to get just battered stuff, just to make sure I do. But no, I had a really good time. I had an amazing time in Edinburgh, and then at Paul's local social club, which was really, really good fun as well. Okay, so what are we looking at today, Paul?
So 3 topics: popular moves over the weekend past, the form table, so last 4 weeks, how players are doing as a consideration for those players post World Cup, and Haaland out. If Haaland out at the weekend, what would we do?
Okay, so on screen now we've got Haaland, Salah, Saka, and Jesus, and these are some of the popular moves of the weekend, weren't they?
Yeah, so I try and avoid using the transfer stats on FF stuff. Instead, I use the percentage ownership in the top 1,000. I think it gives a better indication. Maybe not right at the start of the season, but now we're in November. I think it gives a better engaged managers level of transfers, more so than overall transfers. So Haaland's ownership was 99%, moved down to 53%.
That's insane.
Sunday morning, and then even more so, it's moved to 48% now. So like that last 5% could have been people that owned Haaland holding on, and people jumping into the top 1,000. But I think moving on to Jesus would have been popular. So I'll talk about his ownership in a second. But as I said earlier, I think the gamble will have paid off as long as you didn't move to Saka or perhaps even Kane, who only got the 1 pointer. If you were moving on to Salah on Saturday and then Haaland didn't turn up this Saturday against Fulham, I could see that move being having been a success. if he does turn up against Fulham, I'll be really interested to see what people do if they're going to kind of break their team to get back in.
They're also home to Brentford on the final day as well. It's not just one game left. There's a couple of days. That home to Brentford is going to be a bloodbath as well as the Fulham game. Right? Just if we go off City's attacking, attacking performances at home and those two teams' defensive performances away, I'm quite surprised it went down that much. To be honest.
Yeah, so was I. When I looked at it, I was surprised. I thought it might have went down to 80%-ish, like some people are willing to make the move. I know there's still a few players, and you'll see this by the average transfers remaining, that are still, going through 4 or 5 transfers a week to retain kind of position at the top of the overall charts as well. So Salah's ownership moved from 51% to 69%. Wow. Again, that might be some people jumping in because he was one of the highest scorers on Saturday with 11 points. Finally, I would say that's a decent return. Finally getting a good return there. Bowen, who actually ended up did play on Sunday. I was going to move Bowen on to Foden until I seen Foden was benched on Saturday. So his ownership jumped from 36% down to 22%, and then again down to 17% yesterday morning. Kane's only moved marginally, 78 to 80%. De Bruyne, so I think a few people might have moved Haaland onto De Bruyne, 20% up to 37%. Again, obviously returned well on Saturday. Foden dropped 7%, down from 32 to 25. So some people still keeping faith, obviously, City's two fixtures coming up. Akanji got a few new owners, up from 10% to 14%, and Cancelo moved up 5% from 58% to 63%. So looking on Sunday, at the start of the day, Rashford was on 9%, 25% at the end of the day. I found that really surprising, but I guess maybe some managers were thinking about using him as the captain on that last Sunday, when he might be a good differential captain against Fulham, when there's not a lot of choice. Saka jumped from 14 to 23%. So, as I say, a lot of disappointed Saka owners. Martinelli jumped from 44 to 58%. That could be people just sitting outside top 1,000 coming in, because I think I would have captained them had I owned them. Or captained Saliba, which was disappointing, come off with a 55 successful passes towards the end. And Jesus went from 37% to 63%.
Wow!
So again, I think a lot of transfers used over the weekend.
I'm quite surprised at the investment in the Arsenal players. Obviously, the Forest game is, and I didn't think it would be as easy for them as it was, with Forest improving, change of formation, back-to-back clean sheets. It obviously was easy in the end. I don't think Arsenal's next 2 fixtures, final 2, are really good, which is why I wasn't that interested. I must say I'm quite surprised the amount of transfers used. Sorry, go on.
And Jesus is still on that 4th booking, albeit we've seen runs before where, remember, Diego Costa went about 15 games out in the booking that he needed, and he was scoring like quite regularly at that point a few seasons back. But yeah, and that's why, looking at if anyone that's listened to this had a poor weekend or didn't get the rank gains that they were hoping for, if you used minimal transfers this weekend, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that you've had a small drop in rank. Say I've over doubled my rank at the weekend, and I'm pretty happy with how things have went, with a kind of modest 65 points.
Yeah, looking at the average transfers remaining now, so top 5,000, 28.6, top 1,000, 26, top 100, 20.6, top 10 is 15. So kind of our sort of ranks, Paul, between 100 and 1,000 in terms of rank. 20, 23, 24 is probably the average, assuming you're still kind of well above that, hopefully.
Yeah, like stuff like high 30s, and I think you're low 40s or thereabouts as well. So yeah, I'm really, if you told me that I'd be in this position with this many transfers at this stage in the season, I'd have bit your hand off at the start of the season.
Okay, let's have a look at the form then, the last 4 game weeks, 4 player points.
Yeah, so up on screen, we've got the last 4 game weeks in order of points scored. So we've got Alisson sitting out on top with 41 points over that period of time. Considering how bad Liverpool's been, that just seems crazy, right?
It was the 2 games, wasn't it? Mental. Imagine to score that goal, Paul, against Forest.
I know.
Anyway,
there's a few players I'll highlight, but I wanted to talk about positions to start with. So 8 goalkeepers on that. I always say this, but I think that goalkeeper transfer is often overlooked, and maybe I'm a hypocrite because other people have been moving on to Kepa and I'm stuck with Dean Henderson. So maybe I should live by my own words there. So 8 goalkeepers in there, only 4 midfielders and 2 forwards and 6 defenders. So remember, like a few weeks back, we were talking about all these goals and lack of clean sheets, but now we've got 14 of the 20 places over the last 4 weeks are taken up by goalkeepers and defenders. So I definitely could see a re-emergence of the 5-3-2, which always seems to come by the end of the season. Looks like the value formation to have played, but you go through these spells where there's a lot of goals and there is a fewer clean sheets. A few interesting players here. I think the Man United defenders have been looking great value recently. De Gea's 7.3, Martinez maybe a little bit expensive at 8.3. Luke Shaw's in that list. I really like Diego Dalot. I think he's been playing exceptionally well, and I think more attacking returns will probably come for him throughout the season. He's not on the list. He just misses out. Kepa third, but now injured. I don't know if owners have left a bit of budget to make a move there. I don't think that, even though keepers, unless I could get to Ederson in one move, which I think with Man City's 2 fixtures coming up, even if they kept 1 clean sheet, on my value for the transfer, if Kepa was ruled out, that I think that I would make that move. I'm not convinced that I would go elsewhere keeper-wise to get the 2 games. We're going to look at the next 2 fixtures in a bit as well. Nick Pope on there as well. I think he's making a case to be my post-World Cup goalkeeper. I think I've not owned him this season, but I've always been a fan of his in Sky. And then a few others. Bruno Gomes making it back onto the list. I've always downplayed him a little bit, but the way that Newcastle's playing, I think he's good value. But Callum Wilson and Almiron are the 2 that interest me. I'm usually very good at being able to tell a player's price. But see, if last week, if you'd asked me how much Almiron was, I don't know, and I would have guessed like around about 8 million.
Yeah, I would have said
7 million. I can't believe that. I had no idea that he was that price. I think Newcastle's got a really good run post World Cup, so should, as long as he stays fit, I think he'll be really, really popular.
Yeah, agree. I haven't got really much more to point out there. I suppose a question I've got is in terms of transfers remaining. Look at obviously no one will be transferring in Alisson now, but given Almiron and Wilson's form as example, Trippier's form, and we'll have a look at the fixture in a bit. Do you think there is benefit of maybe if I use my example right, so Scamacca, I don't even know if he's going to play right in this last 2, and he does play, doesn't get many minutes, doesn't look very attacking. Would Scamacca to Wilson with no captaincy or fixture game be something that would interest you or not, or do you just think it's a case of tighten up now and just see it in?
The only thing I think that would interest me is a Man City player, and whether that's if Haaland's ruled out for the next 2 games, I think De Bruyne, moving to De Bruyne, or if you start working out what the rotation of the defenders are, it looks like Laporte's playing all the Premier League games now. Yeah. So maybe moving on to Laporte there would be the option.
But other than that, no, you wouldn't be moving anyone on.
I don't think so. Either if I had the money in the bank and I had Kepa, or if Fabianski was perhaps ruled out for the next 2 games, he went off injured at halftime as well. Then move into Ederson. For me, he only needs to keep 1 clean sheet out of the 2 games. to be value. You've always got the chance of keeping 2 as well.
There just never really seems to, at this stage of the season, be any more than one fixture game, does there, to really try and take advantage. I mean, even when you have a 3-for-1 the one way, you then get a 3-for-1 back the other way, because that's how the fixtures work in the first half of the season. I find it really, really difficult to take out players, even for like a 2-for-0, knowing that then my player's got a 2-for-0 back over them. So at the end of those 4 games, it all evens out. And yeah.
Well, you've been relatively lucky with injuries, right? I know that you
absolutely.
I know you had the Villa centre mid.
Yeah, had Kamara. I don't think I've had any other injuries apart from that. And I think probably Skamaka is the only move I've made, which I say that I had Mitrovic, who's done nothing either since I took him out. So I haven't lost points, but I certainly haven't gained much.
Your net 4 up, right? And then like if Skamaka has to play the next 2 games, they look much more favourable from an attacking perspective, as Mitrovic does as well. So
interesting stuff as we move on to Erling Haaland, 11.7 million, and basically what to do with Haaland.
Yeah, I've probably answered this in the last couple of sections as well. If Haaland was out for the next 2 games, I think with the fixtures, if you want to put the next slide up on screen. So we've got the fixture rated by the next 2 games. So obviously in the lead up to World Cup, you've got Man City way out in front, and you've got West Ham, Forest, Everton, Bournemouth, Spurs, Wolves, and maybe if I didn't own Kane and Haaland was ruled out for the 2 games, I'd perhaps move on to Kane. But for me, if he doesn't play against Fulham, and then there's a chance he plays against Brentford, as a Haaland owner, I'm going to keep him. I'm not going to make any moves, and then captain him on the following Saturday. If he doesn't play the 2, then obviously it's an opportunity missed, but at the same time it's a transfer retained on that front. But if he was ruled out for the 2 games, I think that I would consider moving on to De Bruyne, just with the games being Fulham at home and Brentford at home. Nothing else really stands out for me. If Bowen had been playing really well, I own Bowen, but if I didn't own Bowen and Bowen was in form, and Crystal Palace and Leicester at home for West Ham would maybe appeal to make that move. But nothing else, I don't think, for me could warrant guaranteed points from. So I think I'd leave it.
What about Rashford? We've mentioned the final Sunday is a bit of a tricky day. I don't have the fixture in front of me. I think it's Fulham, Man United, and then there's one other fixture in there. I want to say Brighton and someone, but nothing which really stands out from a high ownership player. Maybe Mitrovic aside, but the way Man United defending, I don't think you'd probably expect as much Mitrovic as maybe we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Would you think, because obviously for Rashford, you would essentially get a 3-for-1 if you brought him in on the Sunday? Is that a move like Haaland to Rashford on the Sunday, or?
Katie said that when we were, I was watching the Man United West Ham game, and when Rashford scored, Katie said, "Remind Fergi that was my tip to him."
It was a tip
the other morning,
because with the rationale being he's a nice human being who does things for other people, as opposed to any kind of football insight or ability.
Correct. That's right. Maybe it's from my own personal experience, and I'm doing, and what's happening with Zaha always happens to me as soon as I get on, he starts blanking. I've got bad experiences of owning Rashford as well, and never ever does anything in my team. If he was ruled out for the 2 games, then I would potentially do that. But if not, then you're missing the game against Aston Villa. You're taking Haaland out. You're bringing Rashford in against Aston Villa, who I guess you could captain in that game. I imagine most will be on Salah or Kane.
Yeah.
You could captain Rashford in that game, but then you've got the chance that Haaland's back against Brentford,
this is it,
and that's before that captaincy game that you'd probably pick Rashford for. So again, I don't think it's for me.
I fancy Rashford. I think obviously Villa got battered last week. He's very confident, and that Fulham game I think is a fantastic opportunity for a lot of upside as well for Rashford, because Fulham and Villa defensively have been really poor. So Scamac is 7.9, Rashford's 8 million. I haven't got a rule. It's almost one of those things where you're hoping for an injury, but.
What are you going to do if Haaland's ruled out on Saturday and there's no news for him being available or not available for Brentford yet?
I hadn't really thought about it until we started talking about it then, but I suppose I don't think I go for De Bruyne. I think if Foden starts, I would be more tempted to go for Foden. But then I'm not sure how Foden would fare without Haaland, because as a partnership they've been superb this season. I think with that in mind, I think I could be tempted with the Rashford move. I think he could score against Villa, but I think he could do real damage against Fulham the week after. And my only other players, similar to lots of others, that Brighton game, some people sort of like, I've got McAllister, some people have got Dunk or whoever else, or like Webster. And for Fulham, people have got Mitrovic and Palhinha. You probably fancy Palhinha to get tackles in that game, but he's always taking for a booking as well. So his ceiling is probably 4 to 5 points in that game. I think Rashford's ceiling in that match could be quite a bit higher. So I would say if you were to pin me down now this minute, I'd probably say Rashford, just because it's a effective.
So you're thinking of moving Haaland onto Rashford?
Maybe, but I've literally only started thinking about it since we've been doing this podcast.
So what would you do if you did that move and then Haaland started against Brentford on 16th? Game week.
Sorry, only if it's confirmed that he's out to World Cup. I wouldn't do it otherwise. Absolutely no chance, because he is, I wouldn't say likely to score a brace or a hat-trick, but out of all the players we've ever had in the Premier League, he is more likely than anyone to score at least a brace against Brentford, where if you don't have him there and I'm trying to just get a sneaky odd goal off Rashford, it's not worth it. So if he doesn't start, I think I'll leave him, because I still think that Brentford game has got such incredible upside still. How about you?
If he's ruled out for the 2 games, I think I'll probably move on to De Bruyne. If he's ruled out of that 1 game and then there's no news on Brentford, I'll probably just hold.
Okay, same. Let's have a look at the fixtures for this coming game week. Saturday the 5th of November, Bonfire Night. What do they call it up in Scotland? The Bonfire Night or something else?
Yeah, Bonfire
Night. We get to see the lineups, so there's no early kickoff, which is really useful in terms of Man City. Very useful. Wolves against Brighton, Forest against Brentford. Obviously, Tony is suspended for that one. Tony Owens will be gutted about that.
So, Henderson owners.
Joyous.
Exactly.
Yeah. Man City against Fulham, which if Haaland starts that one, as a Haaland owner, between the hours of 2 and 3 p.m. anyway, I will be absolutely bouncing, and then waiting for every 5 minutes. Why hasn't he scored yet? Sure we all do that. Leeds also play Bournemouth and then Everton Leicester at 5:30. So stand out. Thinking about that actually, if Haaland is out, well, I'd go for Cancelo actually. I think rather than just make a move over. But Man City definitely the team to target on the Saturday, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. As I say, I'll if Haaland's out for the 2 games, I'd move him on to De Bruyne. I think I don't even know now if Foden plays that I'd be that interested in getting Foden, knowing that the chances are that he gets rested the following. Whereas you think De Bruyne probably plays, but there's a small chance that he doesn't play 2 either. But yeah, I think the order in which you've said, Haaland, Cancelo, would be my order of preference. There's enough ownership there to cover off probably most people's teams.
Chelsea play Arsenal to kick off in what a game that's going to be. 12 o'clock game on Sunday. That's going to be a superb game. West Ham against Palace. Come on, Scamaca. I'd take a start off him. Even if he didn't score, just a start gives you a bit of hope for like 57 minutes. Southampton play Newcastle in form Newcastle. Southampton, I think have been playing quite well recently. I saw that Che Adams had an XG of like 1.3 on the weekend against Palace. I think he was very, very unfortunate not to score. So I wouldn't say that's a shoe-in for a clean sheet for Newcastle, even though they are defending really, really well. Villa against Man United, I've said I do fancy Rashford for these final 2 games, and then Spurs and Liverpool. So I will be captaining Harry Kane because I think that Spurs are going to score. It's one of those games, isn't it? You know, like Liverpool's last 3 Premier League results: beat Man City 1-0, lose to Forest, lose to Leeds. Is it going to be one where Liverpool really turn up again against the big boys, or if it goes to form? You know, I'm not saying that Spurs are hardly playing like breathtaking, entertaining football, but I do fancy them to score a couple of goals against Liverpool.
It'll be interesting to see who comes out top of the kind of popular polls that Dan, Luke Notley, and a few others run as well. I don't like it that when we agree on everything on this pod, but I think I'll be captaining Kane as well. I think that was my intention prior to coming on the pod, and I think that's what I'll be doing.
Same. Okay, thank you so much to everyone who has sent in some questions. Let's read through. We've also had some comments about the 100th episode. Thank you so much. Planet FPL James, congrats on the 100. Thank you very much. Simon Baldock, congrats on the century. He says, what are some of your favourite memories of doing all 100 episodes thus far? The good, the bad, and the in-between. I haven't prepared anything for this. I don't know if you have, Paul.
I think I've got 4 top 100 finishes in the last 6 seasons now playing Sky, and the first season that we did the pod was my worst season. And I didn't know if it was, I don't know what the rationale was behind it, that I felt like maybe I had to back up what I was saying on pod, or maybe that's an excuse and I just didn't have a particularly good season. So I'd say that that's the worst. The best, maybe, like I think it was great when we were live when Liam found out that he won the game.
That was incredible, wasn't it? Absolutely amazing moment. How often do you get that in your whole life? Like, amazing.
Yeah. So I think that'd be my highlight. I think Dan's Christmas quiz was really good as well. We've done it that year. Maybe that's something that we should kind of reinstate for this year. Dan couldn't make it because we were trying to get him on for this episode, but he's going to come and help us out on when the World Cup's on, towards the end of the World Cup before Christmas, to have a look at some post overhaul teams.
Lovely job. Obviously, Dan's rants, legendary. Do you remember his Easter rant where we did the video? That was really, really cool. Where he was like, what was it? Easter cards, Easter presents. He was like, what the hell is this all about? So I always loved Dan's rants. His little personal ones. How he's was it his window cleaner had called Dan Sam for the last 15 years, and he didn't have the heart to correct him and things. And still, even time to time now, Dan will send me through a rant just as a voice note on my phone. He sent me one the other week about cost of petrol and having to queue. So they were always, really, really good fun. And I remember during lockdown as well, we had a bit of it was like a Zoom chat, wasn't it? That was really good fun. And that went on really late into the night. So like 2 or 3 in the morning, I was drinking gin and ginger beer for like hours and hours, and there was only like a few of us left right at the death. I just remember waking up with the worst hangovers I've ever had in my life. That was really good. There
was one where the dog was panting really heavily in the background, and I tilted my camera and he just looked up all glazy eyed.
David Baxter says Fergie's rant was great too. I haven't got the Tango up with me this evening, but that time I kicked off at the guy who was saying, I think he was saying I was like lying about how many transfers I had left, and I lost my rag a bit and told him to get off the stream if he didn't like it. So I've still got that tank, which I usually bring up. Right, I haven't this evening, but some really good memories, of 100 episodes, and hopefully the whole point of this podcast is we really enjoy it, but also we hope we entertain and help everyone listening, kind of do well in Sky, achieve their personal best, win their mini leagues, and indeed kind of win the whole thing, which we've had some feedback over the years as well. So that obviously is really important to us as well. Thanks for the question, Simon. Really good question. Back to Sky. Michael Haaland says, brought in Jesus and Martinelli yesterday, had Jesus captain. Is that the last point for transfers? There'll be heaps of game post wildcards where transfer would be much more useful. So yeah, I think I touched on this last week, but just to add in, like, I think most teams, I haven't got it in front of me, but I think most teams have still only played, is it 13 games, maybe 14 now?
14
so in between 13 and 14, some have only played 13 still because of the blanks, I think, in it.
Yep,
but
yep.
you know, we've got to remember there's still 38. There's 38 games in the season, and we're essentially just sneaking over a third of the games. So by the time we get to game week 16, you know, there's still 22 rounds of games, and within those 22 rounds of games, there will be rearranged fixtures. There will likely be more postponements, and there will be lots of
FA
3,
Cup,
4,
FA
5
Cup.
ones. FA Cup.
Yeah, FA Cup.
Exactly. So there will be a lot more opportunities to really make gains. So even though, you know, if you're not having the best of seasons so far, but your transfer count is in really, really good nick, you know, you're really able to take advantage in January, February and March. What do you think, Paul, about any more transfers or just going to wait?
If you got injuries, we mentioned a few players there, particularly on the Man City team. If you think they're going to play the 2 fixtures, that's what I'd be targeting. If not, yeah, I'd sit on my hands now. Yeah,
same. I think just Skamaka for me. I just look who I could have. I had 0.1 more. Martinelli, Rashford,
You've gained 4 points. I think I'm down on taking Maddison out recently. So,
okay. Colin Johnson says, looking forward to the 100th. Thank you, Colin. And Dark Invader Sky FF, is Jesus necessary? Be punished a few times in my mini leagues. Yesterday, hold strong choice for after World Cup. I got to be honest, I haven't even looked at anything after the World Cup yet. But yeah, it's funny because I think prior to the weekend, I don't think he'd scored or returned in maybe 4 or 5 games. I think is right. So I don't think he's necessary at all, really. And he still hasn't scored in 5 or 6 games. So no, absolutely.
And he punished you double at the weekend because those that owned would have captained. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Whereas I doubt he's going to be highly captained away to Chelsea. And then away to Wolves, particularly away to Wolves when there's 7 other games on, and it's Liverpool at home and Man City at home, etc. So, yeah, we'll talk about him as a post World Cup pick on our podcast there.
And he asked the same about Van Dijk, but again, after World Cup, so we will definitely do a couple of preview pods prior to that. Gordon Bell says, few injured goalies around. I have Fabianski. If he's injured and out the last 2 game weeks, should I get myself Edison or just leave it and fix during overhaul? What do you think?
I don't know if we'll have the same answer to this, but if you've got the money in the bank and Fabianski is out, I probably would move on to Ederson. But Ederson would probably be the only player that I think that I would move to.
I would as well, definitely. And the only reason I would maybe suggest going for someone else is maybe don't have a captain for the final Sunday. You could go for De Gea potentially on Sunday, but I think Edison, you know, he's very, very likely to keep at least 1 clean sheet. If you think of the value of a transfer, I think Paul's got his value between maybe 12 and 15. I've got mine a bit more between 15 and 18, but if we settle on 15, then you know, you would imagine Edison would be close to that. You know, after 2 games.
I was walking the dog today or yesterday, and I was thinking about the question about the value of a transfer, and I couldn't get my head around at what point I think that it would stop, and then the butterfly effect coming in of what transfers would get made afterwards, and that completely reconfigures your team. So I don't think we'll ever come to a definitive way of expressing what a transfer is worth, and that you have to find an end point, right, and then work out what your net is to that end point, and then sum it up that way. And there'll be transfers I'm down on, like I'm down on that Maddison move out still.
I think in the first half of the season, up to Christmas, or in this case, obviously up until now, because there's no very obvious gains. Because like you say, even though you could say, oh, but it was a 3-for-1, the other team then has a 3-for-1 back. So if you do it over the 6 games, it's level. So I don't see that as real obvious gains. So I think up until Christmas, you really need to have a significant gain, personally, I think, and that's either from a captaincy like that kind of Madison one where he also meant he had a 3-for-1 or 4-for-1, or a move like, I don't know, an underperforming defender, or a drop player like Brennan Johnson, or maybe an injury like Kamara or something else. I do think other than that, I personally think you need a pretty good excuse to move off, or there's a player like Akanji. So Akanji, has played, I think it's 6 on the trot now, and he's done really, really well. A kind of emerging real value player, Palhinha, Saliba, someone like that. So I think the value of transfer is probably much, much higher. I think when you get to the second half, I think what we're going to end up doing is almost falling into a point in time, a certain point. So we'll have our overhaul teams, and we will likely have 1 or 2 transfers planned, because there's quite a lot of games in succession, and then there's games on Boxing Day, and basically every day, or kind of most days until like the 4th or 5th of January. So we will likely have a couple of plans in place for transfers during that time, and then there's a bit of a break while there's FA Cup. All right, sorry, I'll get to the point now. But kind of opening the can of worms, I think we will then reach a point where our team is in a constant state of transition because of these 4-for-1s we're talking about. So we won't have a steady team and then like move one player for one player, move one player for one player. I think we'll be targeting teams daisy chaining rather than going specifically. And that's when I think they lose value as individual transfers, or I think they gain value as blocks of transfers in terms of, if you bring in, 5 Man City defenders for a 4-for-1 over Arsenal, it's very unlikely that all those defenders are going to play every game, but they will all play 3 and 4, for example. So that's when I think it slightly decreases, but when I think you see the real gains. And like we say, we've all seen it, right? Remember that Man City crush? I think it was some ridiculous, like a 5 or 6-for-1 the other year over Man City over Liverpool, where I think we tentatively piled in, whereas I know other...
That was a COVID season, right?
Whereas I know other people made the bold move of moving in like 8 players, and it paid off handsomely. They absolutely flew up the ranks.
Yeah.
So
good. I remember Gundogan doing really well in that run as well.
Rodri, all the back four, Edison. People had. I think Jesus at the time. I think Aguero might have been injured, so he was in and out. Maybe Sterling. But I think we'll reach a point where our team is in a constant state of flux, where we will be, I don't know, say heavy on Liverpool, and then there will be a point, say like the 29th of January, right, now's the time to move over to be heavy on Man City, as well as individual captaincy daisy chains. So that's when I think this first half of the season is always about just having a rock solid team, getting a semi-decent start, and being disciplined with your transfers to really enable you to properly attack. Because those who go into the overhaul with, say sub 25 transfers, for me, are going to be very, very limited in what they can do with those huge swings which get these masses of points, where I think the real gains are made. So that's a very, very long answer.
Yeah. And I think something we should remember as well is that if we, like, again, say you value the transfer at 15 points, I always think of it as the burn down line, right? So you've got 40 game weeks and 50 transfers, so you get 1.25 transfers per game week. So 5 transfers per 4 game weeks. There's a linear line that runs down that we're saying 15 points per transfers on that line. If you're below that line, the value of a transfer for me has to be higher than whatever you value a transfer at, because there's going to be a point at the end of the season where players are ruled out for the season, and no matter whatever move you make has to be a gain. Like, it's a guaranteed gain, right? Well, it's not if somebody gets sent off, but like 99 times out of 100, it's a guaranteed game for that run in there as well. So yeah, whatever you think the value of transfer is, if you sit underneath that line of using a transfer per week, I think you have to value it more than what your perception is.
Nice. Good chat, Paul. Good chat. Enjoyed that. Mart Skypath asked about Haaland. I think we've answered that. FPL Foxy, would you guys do Mitrovic to dunk on Saturday? No fixture game, however, dunk can be used for captaincy on the last day. I personally wouldn't, just because they have a 1-for-1 fixture. and a 1-for-1 fixture the following day, you can use Mitrovic for captaincy on the last day.
And he's done, like, I know that he's he can be a bit hit or miss, but he has done well against big teams this season already. So
against Liverpool, dominated Van Dijk.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
I wouldn't either. He had 10 shots.
He had 6. I was going to say he had 6, maybe had one of us is wrong. But
I go by Opta stats, so I'm siding on the side that
maybe it's like block. Well, maybe it's block, and maybe it's block shots. Maybe that includes block shots or whatever.
He had 10 shots, 8 on target. Sorry, 10 shots, 8 in the box, 1 on target.
But he's still busy in there or thereabouts. So, whilst we're tipping probably Man United and Man City to keep clean sheets against Fulham, there's Fulham are an attacking side. And,
agree. You can score against them.
It's good. Yeah.
I think the way he plays, the way he puts himself about, they're going to have to really limit the supply into Mitrovic, but then he makes chances for himself. I'd love him at Tottenham. Obviously, I say that as a Kane, but imagine Kane and Mitrovic up front. He's just, imagine him at Liverpool. Imagine him anywhere. Imagine him at Chelsea. I just think he's a beast. Similarly, would you move Raya on after this Saturday? Not normally a fan of last transfers, but Raya against Man City could be minus. There's the move. I would do Raya to De Gea if you haven't got a captain on the final day. There you go. So you get Raya, and then you get De Gea's 3 for 1. What do you think, Paul?
If I had like 40 plus transfers, maybe I would consider something like that, but I don't. Yeah, I probably wouldn't.
Ian Parrin.
Sorry. I've held Henderson through Liverpool and Arsenal back to back, and I did get a 12-pointer against Liverpool, so I would.
How much did you score against Arsenal? Did you do it on a positive score?
I ended up at 0, which I wasn't too disheartened by, in all honesty. Well, it was a bit like, even though goalkeepers have done well over the last 8 weeks, I don't think this weekend past was a particularly great weekend for goalkeepers. Ederson done really well, but a lot of people with Kepa, and then got the injury. Fabianski got the injury. Rea's popular. So there was it wasn't a great weekend for goalkeepers. So the fact that I came out with 0 from Henderson, I wasn't too disheartened by.
Ian Parrin says, congratulations on the century, gents. Terrific achievement. Obviously, congratulations to you as well, Ian. He says, no tactical question this week. Appreciate your thoughts on Sky FF producing a World Cup game. And also Dan Cox, many congratulations to you as well, Dan. What do my Cymru and Scotland mates think of Sky doing a World Cup international game? Paul, what's your thoughts on a World Cup game for Sky?
I don't know. It's not that Sky are organising a World Cup game. I don't know how, with the season, with it just blending into season to season, I don't know that how much brain power I want to spend resetting my mind from all the fantasy games that we play.
What, you mean you don't want to have a look at Qatar midfielders' passing stats for the last season?
Yeah, well, I'm already doing an article for you guys for the Telegraph game on it. So maybe I'll know their tackling stats at least.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of it yet. The game hasn't launched yet, and the World Cup starts in 19 days, something like that, which I think's crazy, but not. But then you're still in the squads of 55 players as well, so you can understand why some of the formats of the game have made provisional lists or haven't launched yet as well. It's good. I think I saw another question that hopefully this bodes well for the continuation of the Sky game, that in future seasons, when it was being touted that this could have been the last season, or last season could have been the last season. So I will say it sounds positive, but mainly from that front rather than them running the game specifically.
Yeah, no, I think exactly the same. I think it's amazing for Sky managers that they've got a game. I think it's really good. I think it's really good of, Sky and Genius Sports who develop it to do it and build it. Really, really pleased. I'm the same as you. I think in terms of, there's a Dream Team game. There's going to be like an official FIFA game. There's a Telegraph game. There's going to be a Sky game, and obviously because Wales in the World Cup. Sorry, Paul. Obviously, partly at
Well, they're not called Wales anymore, are they?
Cymru, partly at Scotland's expense. I'm determined to enjoy the World Cup and not be on a single game day and have to feel like I have to captain Kane against Wales or anything like that, which these things tend to crop up, don't they? So I probably won't be playing because I really want to enjoy the World Cup. I didn't play the last Euros. I really enjoyed that, and normally I get really invested, and like you say, you end up just getting yourself in a bit of a muddle. And I also think the prize. I think actually the prize for Sky quite decent this time, isn't it?
I don't know. The Dream Team prize was really good. It was like
the Dream
25K,
Team is 25. I'm not sure on the Sky.
I thought Sky was maybe 5. I could be wrong.
Okay. If it's 5, don't get me wrong. I'm not obviously not like sniffing at £5,000, but I think of value my time and sanity over that whole period at the very, very slim outside chance of winning. So I think that I'd probably especially since it's going to be crazy from Boxing Day, or not just crazy from Boxing Day, because here at the Hub we will be preparing everything fantasy football building up to Boxing Day. So we're going to be working some crazy hours and shifts all over Christmas to get prepared for the big kickoff back on Boxing Day morning. I think the first game is like 12 o'clock or something, so it's going to be mad. So that's my thing. But really pleased for anyone who plays Sky.
Can't captain Miroslav Klose as well. So
yeah. Final question from Todd. What is both of your transfer counts? Are you both on track to what you thought you would use before World Cup, or have you used more than you would have liked? Do you mind answering this, Paul?
No, I'm on high 30s, and my plan was as long as I had 35 plus, and that if I had 35 plus and a decent rank, or if I didn't have a decent rank and I had 40 plus, either one of those scenarios would have worked fine for me. And the fact that I'm slightly above on both sides, I'm pretty happy.
Would you like to have a decent rank with 40 plus transfers, though? Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to be top with 50 transfers, but
you just said one. You just said one or the other. Obviously, either 40. Sorry,
at a lower rank.
Yeah.
If I had 40 plus transfers and a lower rank, or if I had 35 plus transfers and a decent rank, then I would. I'd be happy in either of those two scenarios.
Cool.
You've got
and
both.
The reason I ask is I do have both. That's the reason. So currently on 41. And I think I'm 398. I do. If I don't use, I'm not planning on using anymore at the moment. It's all down to Haaland, right? I'm not planning on using anymore at the moment, but I do anticipate a slide because I do. There obviously was a raft of changes on the weekend for players, which I think will likely keep performing well. I know I said about Arsenal. Arsenal's fixtures maybe not being as good as they seem. I think they're both away, but you would still expect them to maybe score a goal in 2 or something, something along those lines. As I mentioned, the City players, I think both of us have got away with Foden massively these last 2 weeks, but he could come back these next 2 to absolutely smash us. As we've seen now, he's brace and hat-trick material. Players like Akanji, maybe even like Palace defenders, Newcastle defenders, maybe even Henderson has got back-to-back home games. So I think there's a lot of players which I haven't got, which could hurt. So I think I'm kind of hoping if I don't make any more transfers, if I can stay in the top 500, I'd be absolutely over the moon. I may end up making 1 or 2 more, but I'm trying my damnedest not to make them just to stop a rank slide. I really want to make them because I think they're the right moves, and I think that's what I've been guilty of in the past, is making transfers to stop a rank slide instead of actually doing what's best for my team. Like I say, if Haaland's out for 2 weeks, I'll be making a transfer definitely. If Haaland is potentially out, confirmed on the final day, so I think on the final weekend we get to see the lineup as well. Maybe think about a move there. Maybe I don't know. I've got to think about how I can gain 15-ish points. So, but yeah, really happy with transfer. The most, obviously the most because of the 50 transfers, but the most by a mile contextually I've had at this point in the season. So excited for the second half. And that's it for this week. As usual, thank you all so much for watching and listening. Your continued support is much appreciated, and thank you, Paul. Thanks once again for being on the majority of the 100. It's quite it's quite an achievement, I think, for any podcast to last 100 episodes. Hopefully, if Sky continues, we'll get to another 100. We'll see. But thank you very much. And where can people find you?
No, thanks, and thanks for having me along as well, Fergi. It's at Paul McAnulty 1, MCANULTY.
My Twitter handle is at FFH_Fergie. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast versions and leave some comments. We'll be back next Monday for our final stream and podcast before the World Cup, reviewing the weekend's action and looking ahead to Sky Game Week 15. Have a great week all, and goodbye for now.